And I'm coming tonight really as a concerned parent and as a practicing psychologist about the proposed cuts to the 6th grade staffing at Weber Middle School. I have been told that the projected enrollment is increasing to 408 students for next year's 6th grade, and that could possibly create class sizes of 28 or more. Also, I have been told that the 2-person teaching teams and the house structure is currently in jeopardy because of the staffing changes that are proposed. And in that event, the students would really become very anonymous in the 1,200-person middle school. I really believe that it's a poor decision, given the fact that 6th grade is a transition year. The increased class size and the loss of 2-person teaching teams would really negatively impact the students who are the ones who have to make the biggest adjustment to Weber, the 6th graders. And I feel that these children and connection to their teachers. One of Weber's strengths is making the 6th grade a manageable experience while the kids get used to so many new demands that are being placed on them. And I just don't see the logic in cutting the core teachers in the 6th grade. I urge you to reconsider these cuts. If you'd like to address this issue now, I'd appreciate it. I'd also be happy to email you my concerns. Thank you very much for your attention and response.
Joe Merzoff. I used to read from this book to my children. It's written by William J. Bennett, former Secretary of Education. Best thing about this book is its table of contents. It's an anthology of stories. And the 10 chapters are self-discipline, compassion, responsibility, friendship, work, courage, perseverance, honesty, loyalty, faith. We used to be a really inventive district. We used to have a math night here. We had pre-K for the new year. We've had it for decades, and they're just talking about it now in the country. We had after school program in the elementary school also for decades. We used to have clubs there. We had a research program before. There might have been one other district on Long Island that had it before us. But lately, we've just lost things. Very important, this stuff in the elementary school, the extension of the day. We had that in the high school and the middle school, but we really needed it in the elementary school. Anyway, I think we've got the right superintendent anyway, but if you look at the world today, my generation was brought up with skills, but not morals. I mean, if you look at what's really wrong with this country, I'm gonna read a list of things that I wrote. I'll probably run out of time. But those who are in charge, who come from all of us and are raised up by all of us, they're really not doing a good job, and the problem is actually moral. Some of the things we do, we meddle in foreign governments so we can take their resources. We bomb weddings and say we kill terrorists. We spend as much on defense as the rest of the world. We arm the world and encourage conflict. We spy on ourselves and call it the Patriot Act. We militarize our police and create national police. We expect our politicians to lie to us. We make it legal for our politicians to take bribes in various forms. Our politicians pay off their friends by putting us in debt. Our taxes are excessive and unfairly distributed and collected. We refuse to jail our biggest financial, political, and industrial criminals.
30 seconds.
Our mainstream media is materialistic, cowardly, and fails to inform. We punish heroic whistleblowers. We broadcast buy, and more things we don't need. We sell images that poison the mind. Our unions put bilking the employer ahead of doing a good job. Our drug companies sell us expensive annuity drugs instead of cures. Our research is tainted by its sponsored agenda. Our doctors are overactive. Our insurance companies avoid to pay money due. We pollute our own country and other countries whenever we can get away with it.
3 minutes.
But just just a few more. But we need the schools. We need the schools to help with this.
Just a moment. Wait for services. Oh, never mind. Judy Epstein, was that you quoting from the book? Or was that just speaking for yourself about we do this and we do that? Okay. Well, I think people should speak for themselves. I didn't do those things. I don't believe people at the front of the room did those things. Yes, we've had to cheapen and dilute and make worse the education we offer our children in this town. And a lot of that is because of people who attack the school budget, and I think you know who you are. If there are no other comments at this time, we'll close the comments until later this evening. I would just like to briefly touch on something during this month in April, in case anyone here doesn't know. The Safety and Substance Abuse Task Force that our co-chair is Stephanie Joannan has arranged to make this anti-bullying month in Fort Washington. I know that it's usually October all across the country, but we missed it with our program, so we have made it in April.
I don't hook it up. I never hooked your amp up. You guys are supposed to hook it up. I don't know. They did a joint thing. I tested the lights. Everything was working. I didn't do anything.
With our speakers, the parents
Someone
and
on the cage.
and our children who have just
Comes
been
around.
amazing, stepping up to the plate. And I know with
Right
the
next to the
bullying, we
sign.
focus a lot on bullies as we need to, and those that stand by and do nothing as we need to teach them all to do better. But we've had countless children coming forward because of seeing these programs to talk about things they're seeing that are wrong and going to teachers and administrators to get help to change it. So something good is happening, it is working, and our children are amazing. So I just wanted to have a little positive spin, something uplifting now and then. And now we will turn it back to me.
Thank you, Mrs. Sloan. I have a couple of positive things to talk about as well. I did want to just announce that our Weber Science Olympiads are in 4th place out of 200 middle schools on April 12th and 13th at Syracuse University. This is the 13th consecutive year that we placed in the top 10 in this state competition. So congratulations to our Science Olympiads. And I also just wanted to reiterate on anti-bullying month. I also attended a number of the activities and the parent activities, and it's so great for the parents who are coming out, and just if I could just urge more parents to find the time to come out and learn what's going on with these activities as well. It's just a really important topic. There are hard issues to discuss, but we are really, and of course, make life as good as possible for all of our students in all of our schools. I also just wanted to mention too, I had attended at Weber Middle School earlier. The team held a parent meeting to go over the Common Core for parents, and that is another area where we're meetings because, again, this is another huge area where it's important for us to talk with you about what these changes are for curriculum and instruction, and you'll probably be seeing more of these types of parent activities in the future, and I hope that as many of you can come out and participate in that as well. And just finally, with regard to the budget tonight, we have a brief presentation of the recap of where we are. The board is looking to adopt a budget. There was one aspect of the budget that you may have been hearing about, something called pension smoothing. There was a meeting that was held with the North Shore School Districts and Senator Jack Martins to go over it. And ultimately, it's basically recommended that most districts will not be participating in the pension smoothing unless is something that they feel that they have to do because their reserves are too low and they have issues with that. It's basically borrowing money and having to pay it back later, and it's recommended on all fronts that if you don't have to borrow that money in that manner and you can pay for it up front, that's what you should continue to do, and that is the direction that we will be taking on that particular issue. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Miller. And then we'll report.
Thank you. Enrollment report, we're staying pretty steady at 5,288 students, and that was as of April 12th. Our kindergarten enrollment is, right now we have 347 students registered, and our projected enrollment is 376, so we're staying on the number for tonight.
I just wanted to speak just for a moment to the sixth grade. We did make that recommendation to reduce two sections based on enrollment. The one thing that I did want to point out, and the number that was cited, is that included in that number are children who are students with disabilities who will be in special classes. So that number will be reduced. However, that does not mean to say that we are not monitoring the situation as we do with all our enrollments, and we recognize that there is often an ebb and flow to the enrollments, and if we find that we are exceeding even the new board policy class size limits, then we will come back to the board and let them know where we are. But right now, we're watching all enrollments in all of our grade levels. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle for the student report.
Thank you, Dr. Mooney. The students don't have much to report. Last night, Strider hosted a college consortium where over 60 colleges attended with a panel discussion in the beginning on the process of the college application done by Mr. Hardy. And Strider athletics are going well, and we have high expectations for these students. Thank you.
I'll make a motion for the approval of minutes for April 2nd, 2013. Do I accept it? Discussion, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. And then we'll move to our discussion item, the budget committee recommendation this morning.
Hopefully this evening, we will be culminating the beginning of a two-part or a three-part process here, which will be the ultimate adoption of our budget, followed by the passage of our budget, followed by the implementation of our budget. And the first slide, I guess the first slide I thought is not the first slide, but we will come to it. I want to show you in this presentation where we stand among our other North Shore districts, but I believe that comes further in the presentation. This is simply a recap of what we are bringing to the board this evening based on all of our prior meetings, all of our prior discussions. The budget, as we understood the direction at our last meeting, was to add back in $100,000 more for technology, which therefore brings the budget increase to 3.92%. That did not have an impact on the tax levy because the board also gave direction to take an additional $100,000 out of our unassigned fund balance to reduce next year's taxes. Thus, the levy increase for this proposed budget is 3.29%, which falls within the constraints of the property tax levy limit. During this process, we took out a number of items. Fortunately, towards the end, we saw a mechanism through increased state aid and the board's decision to take additional funds from unassigned fund balance to restore what had previously been considered as a cut, our current existing half-time PEP program in our elementary schools, including 6th grade. We will also have also included in this proposal the return of the salary for the staff developer, which had been under consideration for cut during the process. More than that, we have been able to fund the return of all librarians in the district to full-time. Those of you who have been following this process know that we have had half-time or part-time librarians at each of the 5 elementaries, with 1 full-time librarian at the middle school and the high school. This proposal returns full-time librarians. We have talked about, and I believe are in agreement, that we will add 4 additional security aides, that we will provide visitor kiosks. Those visitor kiosks will actually come from funding out of the current year's budget. And then technology, we had many discussions. We talked about the need for either Chromebooks or some sort of electronic testing mechanism, which the state is requiring in the year 2014-15. This budget will provide for 1/2 of the funding to do that. And at our last meeting, we talked in great detail about the appropriateness of smart boards as another tool in the educational process, and the board supported adding funds back into this budget in order to create a situation where we will have equity among all 5 elementary schools, and each general education classroom will have a smart board. This is the slide that I thought was going to be the first slide. We show you this each year. It was not presented to you earlier because we just recently received this information, which comes to us from Nassau BOCES, and it is based on the 11-12 budget, because they do their figures after your actual expenses have been reported to the state. So this is the budget, not that we are in now, but the budget that closed as of last June 30th. And it still shows that Port Washington is number 10 out of 12 when we compare ourselves to these other districts financially. And the gap is getting greater. I was even surprised that the superintendent school district is the highest on the list. She did tell me that they were going to be writing letters to the school board, I think. But we, certainly based on our enrollment, we do have the economy of scale, which Locust Valley does not have. But certainly, it is a means of comparing, generally speaking, the cost per pupil based on all the costs that school districts across the county, across the state experience, whether it's salaries, utilities, instructional supplies, and capital projects. We all have the same issues. Some are greater and some lesser. But I think that Port Washington is doing very well compared to other North Shore districts. Now, we've had a great deal of discussion about fund balance and its use in order to reduce the taxes for the community in subsequent years. So I wanted you to see
that while this number has fluctuated a bit over the last 4 years, as the economy has been very difficult, the board has provided as best it can from unassigned fund balance in order to help soften the blow of property taxes. And this year, we are within $200,000 of what we did last year, and the year before that, we had provided $250,000 more than we provided last year. So it's a bit of give and take. We have to monitor our unassigned fund balance as well as all of our reserves in order to be sure that we're in good financial standing. One thing that Dr. Mooney did not mention was that with regard to the TRS and the ERS smoothing, Moody's came out with a statement last Monday, a week ago, saying that they thought it was a dangerous road for schools to go down, that it was not fiscally responsible, and if at all possible, school districts should not participate in this smoothing process. And even the report that came out from the teachers' retirement system, while it does show that next year they expect the rate to go up even further, they do anticipate next year being the last year for that to happen. And then we should start to see a decline going back down from perhaps as high as 20% down to about 14%. And so based on the next few slides I want to show you, I think that the district is positioned to be able to deal with that next year. This is the notation on our reserve for the employees' retirement system. As members who have been on the board for some years will recall, we had 2 or 3 years when we did not put any money in our budget for expenses that were over $1 million. And that in order to make those payments, we did need to use monies specifically set aside for the employees' retirement system. This year, the budget that we planned a year ago at this time, for this year, we were able to put $1.4 million into that budget. And therefore, when we had to pay our bill in December to ERS, we needed to only take $340,000 out of our reserve. That puts us in a much better position going forward. And next year, as you can see, we have budgeted $2.1 million. We expect that bill to be approximately $2.4 million. And the reason I say approximately is because the state of New York, of course, is not on the same fiscal year that we are. So we know what our salaries are from July through June, but their bill comes from the prior March through the following March. So at the end of this year, we accrue part of the money that we will owe them for next year because their new year already began. So our payrolls from March to June are considered in next year's bill. So it's not an exact science. It also takes into consideration overtime and so on. But we do know that the bill will be in the area of $2.4 million. Our unassigned fund balance, I am showing you the last 2 years. 11-12 is the audit that we presented in October, which shows that we did have the ability, after paying our ERS bill, to have an increase of $1 million. We're looking toward our June 30th closing this year. And in October, we will see how close we come to the number that we are anticipating here, which we believe will be around $4.7 million. So I think that that it will still be under the 4% allowable limit that the state indicates. We could have about $5.5 million and still be within the framework of the law and still add more money to our ERS reserve, our workers' compensation reserve, our employees' liability reserve. But I think that we are on the right road to shoring up our reserves and budgeting for all of our anticipated expenses. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, I will start. I just wanted to go back to the issue of the smart boards, and I just wanted to make clear in our conversations regarding this initiative, not everyone was present, and I just wanted to go on public record as thanking all the donations that we have received to date for all of the smart boards, and that this is the beginning of an effort that the board and the administration feels very important to have more discussions on the outset of these plans, that if we're piloting something that's begun with donations, we have to sit down and take a look at it at an earlier point and fund it as a district if it's something that we believe in, so that there will be more equity within the school district and less of a burden on private organizations to be funding it. And sometimes we can't agree or don't have the funding to pilot these things, but we certainly shouldn't be putting the burden on the community outside if it's something that we believe should be in our school district and should be supporting our staff and better serve our students. So that is where we came to this program and this initiative by the superintendent to put the smart boards in all of the classrooms, and we hope that this is the beginning this year of putting them in the elementary schools, and next year to go on to middle school and high school classrooms, and then move on to any common areas that are in need of a smart board. And I have to say again that we are able to do this largely due to the agreement we reached with the Teachers Association, because we would still be talking about losing many teaching positions and in a much different place if not for that. So I think it's important to note. And anybody else have any comments or questions this evening? Or are we just all talked out? No, Bill.
Personally, Mary, thank you for the work you've done putting this together. It's never fun, and I know that. I'm very glad that we're able to restore the librarians. Personally, that's very important because now I think that all the students will have access to people who know how to help students get information that is all the more necessary in this environment, and especially given the rapid deployment and improvement in technology, that will be very helpful. I think that also the introduction of the smart boards in every classroom and equalization will work to everybody's benefit. And I would second Karen's notion about having the district provide that and not have to rely on private donations for this. I think once we have started implementing these in most classrooms, all of them deserve it. Thank you.
I'd like to add my thanks to Mary and your team and to Dr. Mooney and everybody for putting this together. I know it hasn't been easy, and I know one of the hallmarks of a representative democracy is that compromise is the final product of everything. And I don't believe that this is the document that any one person would have ever come up with if this were all in the hands of one person. And ultimately, although the administration recommends it to the board, it is the board that approves this budget. And I think that I am comfortable with where the budget is, and I think it's going to do some good things for the students. And that was sort of a concern of mine, is while we're cutting, we should be giving something and moving forward in some way. And I think the smart boards are a really good start there. I think bringing the librarians back might actually end up being better than having maintained the library program continually throughout, because as they come back on, I think that gap may bring them back with more ideas and more ways to change the program. Sometimes programs don't get looked at as much when they're running fully as they do when they're coming back. So I expect the librarians to be a really big value add for the kids. And I think other than that, there are certainly things that we're all sad to see go. But other than that, I think it's as good a budget as we could have crafted for the community and for this district and for the students. And I generally don't say that.
My wife just sent me a text message to spit out my candy this time, because I got some comments on the online streaming that they could hear the delicious candy that I can't be eating right now. I was prepared. I thought maybe I was preparing myself to be an opponent to the old technology of smartboards. One of the members of the audience offered to show me the magic of the smartboards in Manhasset School District, to which the superintendent and Mary Callahan were kind enough to set up an opportunity for me to see the magic of the smartboards in actual Port Washington School District classroom, which was fantastic. So I did get to see the smartboards in use at Salem and also at Schreiber. And it's a very valuable educational tool. I'm 100% behind the idea of it being a very valuable educational tool, and the equity issue is important for all the schools to have that same technology, having such a valuable tool. So I've been swung around to see the magic, and I'm excited about having these smartboards, at least across the elementary schools. So I just want to thank everybody for browbeating me and jumping all over me when I suggested that smartboards might not be the best use of this fund, but I think it's a really great choice now. And I spoke with David Balin for over an hour talking about what the available technologies are, and seeing him in action makes a big difference. So kudos. You guys beat me up good. And now back to...
Don't fall over, Vern. Very quickly, I think it was 2 years ago, people stepped up to the microphone and they asked the board to keep programs, they asked us to keep the librarians, and I think it was the JV sports or maybe third string sports. Last year, actually earlier this year, they again asked for PEP and librarians, although nobody stepped up about the third string sports. But this budget incorporates what people ask the board to do, and I think that's very exciting. It's a very difficult age given finances, and the fact that we're able to basically give back or get back programs that basically enhance the students' life here at the school, I think is a great thing. And I just want to thank everybody. Thanks.
I cut myself off. Just a couple things. I too want to thank Mary. There were a lot of discussions about the reserves, and I think that thanks to your stewardship of the money and prudent use of it and wise counsel, that we arrive here with a good budget and also some nice dollar totals that are left. And by putting some of the money that's in, one of the items that wasn't on the slide was the workman's comp money that's also in, that gets us closer, and if we repeat it next year, we'll have that fully funded and not have to drain that as well. And I also want to second Karen's thank you to the Teachers Association, because I think we would not be anywhere close to what we are without that, and that has really helped with a large number of the things on the list. Just a couple others. We've also put some extra money in the budget for the athletic facilities and upkeep of the gyms and the fields that we're using the fees from that we collected this year. So for the folks who are paying the fees, they should know that it's been put back in to directly benefit the athletic makeup and structure of the district. I think we've also put a little bit more on the social work side that connects a little bit, if you will, to the mental health aspect of the security that was raised even in the recent 60 Minutes show where where that was discussed. But overall, I think that we've gotten so many things accomplished that when we went back, I mean, the process started last August where we were staring at $8 or $9 million on the short side, and there was a long list of things that were initially being looked at as cuts, and where we arrive now. There are some that are still, and they're painful, but between retirements and attritions and other things, a lot of balance has come in the end, and a lot of stuff has gone back in. So I too, second, third, fourth, seventh, if you will, the opinion that it's a good budget that I hope the community will come out and overwhelmingly support in a little over a month from tonight.
Thank you.
I just want to add that we wouldn't be here tonight also without the help of the administrators. Would we have gotten to this place? I know we met with all of them, I think only once, but the meetings that you held with central administration were countless and painful, and we would not have been able to have the kind of budget we have tonight without the kind of frank and open discussions that we had with you and that you had with each other. And so thank you to you as well for that. And I think that's it. I think we're ready to proceed. So thank you very much.
Just very briefly, the only thing I would also like to add my thanks to the entire administrative team, especially Mary Callahan, the team. It was really a collective effort. I also want to thank the Teachers Association for working with us with their agreement, and we really worked very hard to put together what we believe is a fair and balanced budget to maintain and even grow certain aspects of our educational program. And I'm really very grateful to everyone for all the time that they put into this. Larry said it best when he said that this is not the work of one person. This is a collective effort, and it simply shows the power of what we can do when we work together. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, on to committee reports, policy and personnel. Mrs. Johnson.
At our last meeting, we looked at the investment policy and the purchasing policy, and I believe they're on for first reading, or are they on for first reading yet? Okay, they'll be on for first reading the next session. Continue to look at our social networking policy, and that's an ongoing discussion because, as I've been saying, there's a lot of issues that are philosophical, practical, technological, and very interesting. The next meeting is May 17th. It'll be in the administration building. Everybody's invited to come. Thanks.
Budget and facilities.
We covered a lot of what was looked at on the slides. We also talked about some of what could be termed equity, as far as we were talking at one point about one of the schools was looking for air conditioning, and we discussed at some length how that corresponds with if HSAs can fund that as opposed to others, whether it becomes a district priority, how do we balance that? So we covered that for a little bit, but mostly it was the budget material rounding out towards the adoption tonight. And the next meeting, Mary, is 29th, 8:30 at the Daily Annex, and we'll continue possibly looking at some facilities issues, including the parking lot in Munford, which I haven't forgotten about, because well, just as an aside,
have I forgotten about the liability issue?
I understand, but a couple of people have come up to me and said that they would even use it part-time and pay significant money to lease monthly spots in that lot, which today go unused. And it is something that we need to continue because some Excel spreadsheets are looking at $75,000 to $100,000 a year that we could raise and plow back into the education of the kids in clubs and after-school things, and it's just sitting there empty at the moment.
Larry, curriculum?
Curriculum will be meeting this Friday, 2 days from today, 8:30 in the morning at the Daily Annex, and we will be getting a report on the review of the math program. And also, now that we have a budget and we know what things are looking like, we're going to get just a brief overview of some of the curricular initiatives that are being looked at district-wide. Everybody is welcome to attend, and it should be a good meeting. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, I will move to the action items. I'll start with A1 because I'll be going to A2. Make a motion. All in favor? A second? Mr. Hauser, all in favor? 7-0. Thank you. And now A2. Mary, I need that number. Oop.
The number is $138,808,242.
I will make a motion for the budget to adopt the proposed budget for the 2013-2014 school year in the amount of $138,808,242. Do I have a second? Alan Baer, Chair of the Budget Committee. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. And now, Mary, do I have to pull out separately the BOCES items or no? Because we have only 3 candidates for 3 positions.
You don't need to pull that out, no. As long, unless you don't have a unanimous vote, then for the budget? No, no. For a bond,
I will now make a motion for items A3 through D10. Do I have a second? Mr. Greenstein, all in favor? 7-0. Thank you. We are now on to old business. Do we have any? Do we have any new business? Do we have any community members that would like to be heard?
Emily Bays, and I too would like to thank the Board of Education, the administration, and the teachers for putting together a budget this year that looks positive. I've stood in this room and I've heard many meetings over the years, and we've been, especially of late, having to cut a lot of things, and we've heard a lot of parents complaining. And I would like to say that this year I feel positive about this budget, and I'm grateful for all your hard work and for working together, and I'm eager to get this budget passed. So let's go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Silverstein, one of the co-presidents of Guggenheim, and I too would like to thank the administration for all the hard work that they put together this budget. And I want to thank the board for all their probing questions and just asking the administration to go back and see how you could possibly add back in programs or add programs or technology. And I'm really, after the past few years of what seemed to only be cuts to programs, we really have something to be quite proud of this year and something to really tell our parents that they should support. And I am really, really so pleased with the fact that there will be smart boards in all the elementary schools. I really think it is something that in the 21st century we should walk into classrooms and see, and I'm really thankful that you looked at the equity issue and you took it seriously, and that you are thinking of our district as a whole, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Joe Mersoff. 19 years ago, I first spoke at this microphone. I spoke on the teacher education program. I was given a memo that showed that the teachers were getting raises because they were taking, among other things, they were taking basket work and paper folding, paper making. And it was unusual for people to complain at that time. And when the meeting was over, the head of the teachers union, someone I love and respect, Marianne Cariello, she cornered me and she said, you don't object to teachers getting paid well, do you? And I said, no, I don't. And she says, well, this is how we do it. So I was struck dumb, and the way I would answer her today, I say the purpose of this program is to make teachers better so that they would educate the students better. Okay, so but this was lost because the union perspective was this was the way to get a raise. Now, there are many things, many things in this district which makes this was the tip of the iceberg, which makes education extremely inefficient. We have, in the country, we have one of the highest education costs in the world, like the highest healthcare costs in the world, yet our results are not the best. You're not even in the top 10 in either one of those fields. And the reason is because the purveyors serve themselves before they serve the customers. And I can tell you, it's nice to have the librarians back, and I'm very happy to see that, along with the raise, that the public is getting more. But trying to cram more into the 6-hour day is not efficient. Not hiring 2 or 3 teachers for the same kid at the same time, that's not efficient. You do much more service to the community when you extend the day or you extend the number of days. Okay, because you can give, and especially for the young kids, because that's when the mind is forming, is when they can take on more the most things, and that's been known since the 1990s. You also, it's people struggling. They have 2 jobs, 2 parents working, families break up. There's single parents, and the parents of the young, especially young kids, need the coverage, which is why the giving more and more after school in the elementary schools is so important. I think you should
30
think.
seconds.
Okay, I think you should think out of the box when your negotiation comes up. We studied time in the 1990s, and that's one of the greatest causes of inefficiency is how we just crowd too much, and we should be extending the time that the students and the community get to give the community a better deal.
Judy Epstein. I'm thrilled with what I heard tonight. I want to thank the board, everybody that's been thanked. I want to reiterate my thanks. Well, I never got to say it to the teachers. I am really I'm awestruck. I'm so glad that this district gets to talk about putting librarians back to full-time. I'm so glad that the other cuts that sometimes we have to keep arguing about, we are, like the speakers before me, talking in positives. And it'll be a pleasure to talk about this budget and this district. And I, especially to the teachers, when your kids are little, you get to thank your child's own teacher and maybe some of the others in the building. But as they get older, middle school, high school, you never see them. My child has teachers, I'm not sure I know what they look like. So all of you, thank you very much.
Good evening, Howard Simon, parent of a daily, soon-to-be second grader. I'll be happy to support this budget because I know how hard everyone worked on it. I know how much effort has gone into this over countless months and meetings which I was not privy to, and meetings which I have seen. We know, anyone who's been paying attention knows how much effort has gone into this from all parties. But let's be honest about one thing, which was only obliquely hinted at this evening. To call this a positive budget is only in comparison to what could have been. Let's not forget that when this budget is all said and done, we will have fewer teachers in the district next year than we had this year. We will have fewer educational and teaching assistants than we had this year. There are other cuts going on as well. The harsh reality, when you add in the larger class sizes, which will be part of this as well, is that this is much like the movie Argo. When it was asked of the people who are trying to figure out how do we get the American hostages out of Iran, this is the best bad idea you came up with? And the answer was, this is the best bad idea we have by far. This is the best budget we could have had by far, given the circumstances we had to face. But I think, to be honest, we need to acknowledge it's not really a great budget. It's a good budget based on what we had to work with, what you had to work with. The challenges have not gone away. They will still be there. If we're going to be able to face those challenges going forward and solve them as a community, working together, as we've heard tonight, is so important, we need to at least be honest about what we're doing and where we stand. Thank you.
We will close out community comments at this time, and we are adjourned. Thank you. It's a record. See, throw me a party and look what I could do.